Counting from 10 to 1 is not a transition into sweet sleep. It is a timer after which you voluntarily surrender your biological spacesuit to a legal body shop. You cherish illusions of a quiet rest, but a real operating room smells of burnt human flesh. While your brain is isolated in an artificial coma, you are turned into a piece of material on a workbench. Your eyes are taped shut tight, your bones are sawed with construction drills to a hip-hop soundtrack, and your intestines are just dumped out to rest on a napkin. There is no healing magic here, only an aggressive engineering hack of your body. Today we are dissecting 33 facts about anesthesia that will permanently destroy the remnants of your hospital romance. From rubbing beeswax into a sawed-open sternum to the chance of waking up completely paralyzed right under the surgeon's blade. Take off your rose-colored glasses. We are cutting to the quick. Fact 1. Eyes on medical tape. Did you honestly think that under anesthesia you would peacefully snooze, eyelids closed like a Disney princess in a crystal sanctuary? Reality is much more prosaic and looks more like a garage repair. The moment the drugs plunge us into oblivion, our body forgets its basic functions, including simple blinking. Without moisture, your cornea dries out in a matter of minutes, guaranteeing a chemical burn and a ticket to the visually impaired club. That is why caring surgeons do not sing us lullabies. Instead, they take a roll of sticky tape and tightly seal our eyelids shut in a crisscross pattern. It looks as if you owe money to the mafia and are being prepped for a dive to the bottom of the river. We trust doctors with our lives, and they treat our face like a cardboard moving box that needs to be securely taped so nothing falls out on the road. A brilliant engineering approach to the crown of nature's creation. But hey, at least you will not get any mimic wrinkles during the procedure. Fact 2. You are not asleep, you are in a chemical coma. Medical marketers love the phrase about medication-induced sleep, but that is a sweet, soothing lie. Anesthesia has absolutely nothing in common with your Sunday rest on a soft couch. It is a profound, artificially induced, and strictly controlled chemical coma. The drugs literally shut down your higher nervous activity, plunging your brain into a state balancing on the razor-thin edge between existence and a complete system shutdown. Your brain is not recharging. It is agonizingly fighting to maintain the basic settings for survival. If someone offered us a pill that would put us in a coma for a couple of hours just for fun, we would immediately call the paramedics. But once you wrap it in a pretty medical term, we obediently offer our vein. Our body is simply rebooted by pulling the plug from the wall, hoping the motherboard will not fry upon restart. The Matrix has screwed us even in the hospital ward. Fact 3. Total voluntary paralysis. Sounds like a challenge to your ego? Now imagine that you have turned into a piece of warm Play-Doh. For the surgeon to cut smoothly, they need an absolutely motionless body, completely stripped of the slightest reflexes and muscle spasms. A massive dose of muscle relaxants is injected into your vein, substances that completely block the transmission of signals from nerves to muscles. You cannot move a finger, you cannot blink, you cannot even take a breath on your own. Your diaphragm sags like a deflated balloon. And from that moment on, your ability to get oxygen is entirely the responsibility of a buzzing plastic box with bellows. We evolved for millions of years, learning to run from predators and build civilizations, only to voluntarily turn into a vegetable in a garden bed, entirely dependent on a 220-volt power supply. Imagine a supercar that gets its gas tank filled with expanding foam at full speed. The ideal patient is a log with a pulse. Fact 4. An alien hose in your throat. Since we have established that you can no longer breathe independently, let us look at how oxygen is shoved inside you. Forget about the neat little masks from TV shows about heroic doctors. That is cinematic nonsense for impressionable viewers. In reality, the anesthesiologist takes a long, rigid plastic tube and forcefully pushes it deep down your throat. It passes right through your delicate vocal cords, unceremoniously pushing them aside, and goes straight into your trachea. This plumbing system is necessary so the ventilator can forcibly pump your lungs full of air. Have you ever choked on a breadcrumb so badly that tears shot from your eyes? Well, here a piece of garden hose is rammed down your throat. We spend a ton of time choosing ergonomic mattresses for neck comfort, while at the same time a foreign object the thickness of a marker is jammed into the most vulnerable part of our body. At least your snoring definitely will not bother anyone. Fact 5. The distinct aroma of roasted meat. Expecting the smell of sterility, rubbing alcohol, and cleanliness? Keep dreaming. When a scalpel slices through tissues, they start bleeding profusely. To prevent the patient from bleeding dry in a matter of minutes, surgeons use an electrocoagulator. This is a special tool that runs an electrical current through your blood vessels and literally fries them to a crispy crust. Because of this, the operating room is constantly filled with a thick, nauseating stench of burning human flesh, as if someone forgot a steak on the grill. Doctors even have to use portable smoke vacuums just to see something through this barbecue haze. We turn our noses up at hot dogs with MSG and buy deodorants scented like alpine meadows, while our own insides sizzle on the table like cheap fast food. 21st century medicine still solves problems the same way cavemen did, by simply cauterizing everything with fire. Bon appetit to everyone present in the room. Fact 6. You can hear absolutely everything. Here we are at the stickiest nightmare of any hypochondriac. The statistics are relentless. Roughly 1 in 1,000 patients suddenly regains consciousness right in the middle of a surgical intervention. The brain wakes up. Receptors start registering the hellish pain of your body being sliced open. And you hear the surgeon's jokes and the clinking of instruments. But because of the muscle relaxants, your body remains completely paralyzed. You can neither open your tape-sealed eyes nor twitch your pinky toe, let alone scream. You are trapped inside your own body, like in a tight prison cell. This is not just a glitch in the Matrix. It is the script for a perfect psychological thriller. We fear ghosts and maniacs in dark alleys, even though a real local hell exists right under the bright clinical lights. Imagine a video game where your character falls through the textures. You see everything, but your controls are disconnected, and the enemies just keep slashing at you. The perfect moment to practice your Zen Buddhism. Fact 7. Sticky beeswax in your skeleton. Think we have outgrown the times of folk medicine with plantain leaves and urine therapy? Think again. Science is full of surprises. During major interventions like open-heart surgery, surgeons have to cut open your sternum with a special circular saw. The bone marrow inside the cut starts bleeding heavily, and you cannot just burn a bone with electricity or tie it with a thread. So what do certified luminaries with years of experience do? They take sterile beeswax and literally rub it into the bone cut with their bare fingers, sealing the pores like plasterers, covering cracks in a wall with putty. We launch rovers to Mars and edit the human genome, but to plug a hole in a bone, we still rob beehives. If bees found out that the fruits of their hard labor are used to spackle a mid-level manager, they would stage a massive strike. Just pray the bears do not smell your new body tuning. Fact 8. Your insides are resting on a nightstand. Our body seems to us like a sacred temple where everything is perfectly fitted and in its place. But that is a naive illusion. During massive abdominal surgeries, the surgeon often catastrophically lacks room to maneuver. To reach the necessary tumor or vessel, they do not hesitate to do a little furniture rearrangement. Your organs, most often long loops of intestines, are calmly pulled out of your abdominal cavity and laid out nearby on a sterile napkin. While the doctor wields a scalpel deep inside your belly, a part of you is literally chilling on the table, waiting for its turn to go back home. You treat your stomach with awe, do crunches, and drink celery smoothies. But to a surgeon, you're just an old computer tower. To change the motherboard, you first have to pull out the graphics card and put it on the table. Pure auto mechanics. Good thing cats do not roam around the operating room. Fact 9. You are blown up like a party balloon. Laparoscopy is marketed as low-trauma magic without giant scars, but from the inside, the process looks much more comical. To operate with long instruments through tiny punctures, doctors need workspace. How do they get it? Very simply, you need to be inflated. A special needle is inserted into your abdominal cavity, through which carbon dioxide is pumped under high pressure. Your belly inflates to the size of a giant watermelon, forming a spacious cave where surgeons can comfortably move their forceps and cameras. We spend years on diets, sweating on treadmills for a flat stomach, and then, for our own money, we get pumped full of gas until we look like a blimp. If an animator from a kid's party saw you at that moment, they would try to twist you into a poodle. Our body is used as an inflatable bouncy castle for the convenience of the technical staff. The perfect excuse for extra weight has officially been found. Fact 10. Inventory straight from the hardware store. We are used to thinking that surgical instruments are elegant, gleaming, high-tech artifacts. Time to come down to earth. If you end up on the table of an orthopedic traumatologist, forget about delicate scalpels. You will hear the roar of real construction tools, drills with massive bits, circular saws, chisels, bolt cutters, and hefty metal hammers. To piece together a broken bone, they literally screw in titanium wood screws and hammer in pins with such force that the whole operating table shakes. The elite of medicine with a decade of education turns into a regular crew of rough construction workers as soon as bones are involved. We buy vitamins to strengthen our skeleton, and they treat it like a wooden beam that needs to be bolted together. Instead of subtle art, it is brutal carpentry, where the main skills are a good eye and the ability to swing a hammer really hard. This surgery is sponsored by your local hardware market. Fact 11. A rigid gag in your mouth, even completely knocked out, your body poses a serious threat to itself, and doctors know this perfectly well. While anesthesia is being administered, or as you are waking up, your jaw muscles can experience a brutal spasm. The bite force of a human jaw is so strong that in an unconscious state, you could easily bite off your own tongue or crush your teeth into fine gravel. To prevent this, they wedge a massive plastic block between your jaws, essentially a hard gag that keeps your mouth from closing. Evolution gifted us with powerful jaws to tear apart raw meat, and now this superpower is turned against us. We hand over fortunes to dentists for snow-white veneers. And then we come to the hospital, where they shove a chunk of plastic into our mouths like we are an aggressive pit bull at the vet. We are literally being saved from our own animal instinct for self-destruction. No need to thank them for saving your smile. Fact 12. Neon liquid in your bladder. Well, heroes, are your palms getting itchy yet? Want to lock yourself in a bunker, surround yourself with antibiotics, and never leave the house again? Hold on, do not run for the sedatives just yet. We have not even reached the halfway mark of this absurd show. Drink some water, relax, because it is only going to get more interesting. Let us talk about how your bodily fluids turn into an acid rave. One of the most popular drugs for intravenous anesthesia is the famous propofol, that same white cocktail that knocks you out in 10 seconds. Well, it has a fabulous side effect. It can dye your urine a bright neon green color. Your kidneys filter out this phenolic component, and what comes out looks like you drank a liter of radioactive waste or alien blood. We obsess over organic products, fear food coloring, and then we get pumped full of chemicals that make us glow from the inside. Now you are completely ready for a party at a nuclear power plant. Fact 13. Uninterrupted plastic plumbing. Did you think that while you sleep, your physiology delicately takes a pause? What charming carelessness! While you are in sweet oblivion, your kidneys continue producing urine non-stop. If the surgery lasts more than a couple of hours, your bladder would pop like an overinflated ball. Therefore, as soon as you pass out, a nurse unceremoniously inserts a long, flexible tube right into your urethra. You literally pee yourself into a transparent bag that hangs forlornly on the side of the operating table. We spend colossal amounts of money on designer plumbing, picking out heated toilets with smart flushes to feel like aristocrats in our own homes. And in the end, our artificial pride stops right where a piece of cheap latex begins. Imagine Tony Stark in his multi-billion-dollar high-tech suit, forced to relieve himself into a plastic bag tied to his leg. All our fabricated civility strips away in a single second, leaving us face to face with basic animal needs that are resolved using the clunkiest sanitary method imaginable. If aliens intercepted a broadcast from the operating room, they would assume we farm yellow liquid for export on an industrial scale. Go ahead and cancel your urology appointment for tomorrow. Fact 14. A traumatic encounter with metal. Are you sure you will flash a Hollywood smile at the nurse right after waking up? Do not celebrate too early. When the anesthesiologist shoves that breathing tube down your throat, they use a laryngoscope, a heavy metal spatula with a flashlight, and in a rush, applying physical force to pry apart unyielding jaws, this device regularly smashes right into your upper incisors. We wear uncomfortable braces for years, pay dentists the price of a used car for every millimeter of enamel, and then we get stripped of our front teeth simply because a tired doctor's hand flinched on a turn. It is the equivalent of buying the latest smartphone and accidentally using it to hammer a nail into a concrete wall. We are assured the process is completely safe, yet as a parting gift, we get the appearance of a seasoned pirate after a good portion of rum and a tavern brawl. Your jaw turns into a war zone where casualties are written off as inevitable operational costs. The tooth fairy at this clinic is clearly working overtime. Fact 15. A gravitational amusement ride with straps. It seems that lying on your back with your eyes closed is the most natural and safe state for a human being. Not quite. You are not relaxing under palm trees on a beach, after all. During the procedure, the surgical table is constantly tilted in all directions, angling you head down or sideways at absolutely insane angles so the blood drains from the right organs and clears the view. Without rigid fixation, you would simply crash down onto the dirty tile floor, so you're tightly strapped down with wide car-like seatbelts. We fancy ourselves to be completely free individuals. We choose orthopedic mattresses with memory foam, and ultimately, we get tightly swaddled like Hannibal Lecter during transport to a maximum security prison. Your relaxed body dangles helplessly on straps like a sack of potatoes on a malfunctioning roller coaster. Doctors manipulate your position in space with the grace of movers hauling an old piano. If they sold this to us as a theme park attraction, we would demand a refund for the total lack of service. Good thing they do not force you to wear a safety helmet before the launch. Fact 16. Internal eco-friendly recycling. Do you know where your spilled blood goes during major interventions? You probably naively think it is gently wiped away, while you are delicately infused with fresh blood from sterile clear bags donated by noble volunteers. What a touching and infinitely expensive illusion. If a wound bleeds too heavily, a special blood-saving machine comes into play, working exactly like a banal wet vacuum cleaner. It mindlessly sucks up the crimson puddles mixed with chunks of tissue straight out of your mangled belly. Then this questionable sludge is run through a centrifuge, hastily filtered of obvious garbage, and ruthlessly pumped right back into your veins. People blow fortunes on multi-stage water purification systems, fear drinking from the tap, and demand alpine spring water in glass bottles. And meanwhile, a medical machine scoops up a dirty puddle from the floor of your body and serves it back to you like an exquisite cocktail. This is a zero-waste production on the level of Mad Max, where not a single drop of precious resource should go in vain. Your personal in-account Dracula is currently having a hysterical fit. Fact 17. A gastric tsunami in the wrong direction. Another myth for the piggy bank of stupidity. The ban on eating before the hospital does not exist just for your blood tests. You have probably been mad at the doctor who forbade you from having a hearty breakfast, thinking it was just old-school textbook paranoia. In reality, the physics of the process are absolutely merciless. The drugs entirely disable your gag reflex and relax all the muscle valves in your stomach. If a half-eaten steak or a glass of fresh orange juice is sloshing around inside, this acidic mass freely rises up your esophagus and pours straight into your defenseless, paralyzed lungs. It causes a total chemical burn of your respiratory tract. We are taught for years to chew our food thoroughly for proper metabolism, and we take probiotics on a strict schedule. But one little sandwich before the operating table turns your chest cavity into a reservoir of caustic acid, just like in the creepiest scenes from the Alien movie franchise. Nobody planned to drown in their own breakfast while lying on a dry table. Good luck explaining these gastronomic physics to your outraged appetite. Fact 18. An unsanctioned session of hardcore hair removal. Has it never surprised you how doctors treat your personal space? Imagine, you came in to fix a broken wrist, got cozy on the table and wake up with a completely bald chest or shaved legs. Think the surgeon decided to moonlight as a stylist? Not at all. Anesthesiologists need to constantly monitor your heart rate, and to do that, sticky electrodes are attached to your skin. If there is even a hint of hair on your body, these stickers simply will not hold. So the on-duty nurse takes the cheapest disposable razor and, without any shaving foam, dry scrapes the hair off random spots on your flesh. We book barbershop appointments a month in advance and choose wax with lavender extract to avoid irritation. And here, they scalp your belly just to stick a piece of tape with a wire to it. Your body is processed with the grace of a butcher plucking a chicken before making broth. Your partner will definitely appreciate this avant-garde geometric design later tonight. Fact 19. An ice age under bright lamps. Take off those rose-colored glasses. Hospital coziness is cancelled. Under the massive impact of chemicals, your brain completely forgets how to manage its own temperature. You lose your basic ability to thermoregulate, turning into a piece of cooling meat. The temperature in the operating room is always kept at the level of a walk-in freezer for the sake of sterility and the comfort of sweating surgeons. If they just left you lying naked under the air conditioners, you would freeze into a popsicle in 40 minutes. So they cover you with a giant inflatable blanket that is continuously pumped with hot air from a special cannon. We order merino wool thermal underwear and buy smart heaters, considering ourselves the crown of evolution, but inject one drug and we instantly roll back on the evolutionary scale to the level of cold-blooded reptiles that need a heat lamp just to avoid freezing to death. Welcome to the Iguana and Crocodile Club. Enjoy your artificial sun. Fact 20. A loud disco over your open insides. Been building up the image of a refined intellectual listening to classical music in the morning for years? Get ready for a culture shock. As soon as the anesthesia sends you into a deep knockout and the scalpel makes its first long incision, the atmosphere in the room changes drastically. Surgeons are people with a colossal level of stress, and to keep from losing their minds, they often work to incredibly loud music. While your organs are put on public display, the room might be blasting bone-crushing heavy metal, hardcore rap, or an acid techno rave. We demand absolute silence in libraries, throw tantrums over neighbors with a drill, and attend meditations in soundproof rooms. But in the most vulnerable moment of your life, when your chest cavity is popped open like a suitcase, a medical crew throws a local music festival right over you. You literally serve as a biomechanical dance floor for their private party. Too bad they did not sell you a VIP ticket to this concert. Fact 21. A hack of your social decency. Let us talk about psychology and dirty secrets. Coming out of a chemical coma is not like the awakening of Sleeping Beauty. It is a brutal crash in your brain's operating system, known as emergence delirium. In these minutes, your moral filters are utterly destroyed. Sweet old ladies curse at doctors using the foulest language. Respectable businessmen try to pick fistfights with fragile nurses, and exemplary family men loudly blabber about their most disgusting affairs and financial frauds. We spend decades building a flawless reputation, read etiquette books, and hide our skeletons securely in the closet. And then, a tiny dose of medicine turns us into aggressive baboons on truth serum, ruining our image in 30 seconds of bleating on a medical couch. And the most offensive part is, an hour later, you will not remember a single spoken word, but the staff will remember you forever. Good luck looking those people in the eye during the morning rounds. Fact 22. The maniacal accounting of bloody napkins. Used to counting every penny in your mobile banking app. Medics have outdone you in this paranoia. Before the first cut begins and before the final stitch is placed, the scrub nurse maniacally, out loud, counts every single used gauze swab, every clamp and every scalpel. This is a ritual that tolerates zero mistakes. If, in the end, the debit and credit do not match by even one pathetic blood-soaked rag, they absolutely will not stitch you up. Your opened body will be wheeled off for an X-ray, or they will sift through your intestines by hand until they find the missing item. People trust their lives to complex neural networks and algorithms. But in an elite operating room, the main safety criterion remains the counting method from a medieval shop. If they miscalculate, you get a free cotton souvenir inside your abdominal cavity, which will eventually turn into a raging center of infection. It is the most extreme hidden object quest, where the timer is your own health, a thrilling game of hide-and-seek for survival. Congratulations, survivors! You have made it to this stage of our anatomical theater of the absurd. If your eye is not twitching yet and you are not Googling the cost of a bunker in the Siberian taiga, it means your nervous system is tougher than titanium orthopedic bolts. Exhale, pet your cat, pour some tea, because ahead of us lies the most twisted part of this medical show. Fact 23. A clerical approach to closing your wounds. Forget the beautiful fairy tales from TV series about genius surgeons spending hours agonizing over a meticulous seam of the finest silk. In most cases, there simply is no time for that. As soon as the main work inside is done, the doctor pulls something out of their pocket that suspiciously resembles the inventory of a shy office clerk. The edges of your torn skin are simply generously smeared with medical superglue or roughly clamped together with metal staples using a massive construction stapler. Click, clack, and you are done. We choose clothes made of natural fabrics without rough seams so our skin can breathe comfortably. And then we get sealed up like a cheap cardboard box before being handed to a courier. You come in for elite healing and you leave with a set of iron staples in your stomach. Your body is now officially a stapled accounting report. Fact 24. Forced to stand-up comedy with an open skull. Love having heart-to-heart chats at inappropriate moments. Neurosurgery has elevated this to an absolute art. If they are removing a tumor in the areas of your brain responsible for speech or motor skills, doctors cannot risk working blindly. They simply wake you up right in the middle of the process. Your head is clamped in a metal vise, your cranium is wide open, your brain is pulsating under the lamps, and the anesthesiologist affectionately asks you to name the capitals of Europe, recite a poem, or play an acoustic guitar. We struggle to wake up to an alarm, downing liters of coffee just to reply to a work email. And here you are expected to deliver a creative performance while someone is literally poking around in your consciousness with tweezers. It feels like a crazy reality show where you are the main star and the price of a forgotten word is the loss of your ability to speak for the rest of your days. It is the most demanding audience you will ever have to perform for. Fact 25. The technical status of officially registered undead. This is going to hurt your biological pride. During complex open-heart surgeries, surgeons cannot operate on a beating organ. That is like trying to fix the engine of a car speeding at 200 kilometers per hour. So your heart is intentionally stopped by pouring an ice-cold paralyzing solution over it. You cease to exist by all medical parameters. Your blood is pumped through plastic tubes by a bulky cardiopulmonary bypass machine, oxygenating it instead of your lungs. We obsessively check our pulse with fitness bracelets, terrified of an extra cup of espresso for fear of disrupting our rhythm. But on the surgeon's table, you're voluntarily transformed into a technical zombie whose motor was turned off with a switch. You exist in the gray zone between the world of the living and total emptiness, completely dependent on an uninterrupted power supply from a wall socket. Frankenstein would be absolutely thrilled with such engineering solutions. Your fitness tracker will definitely log this as a very strange workout. Fact 26. A caustic marinade for your skin. Aesthetics get thrown straight into the trash can from the first second of surgery prep. You will not be gently wiped down with cotton pads and toner. To kill absolutely all bacteria on the surgical site, A nurse takes a giant sponge on a stick and generously, with broad strokes, paints your naked body with a caustic orange or dark brown liquid based on iodine or chlorhexidine. You get covered in stains from your neck down to your knees. We fund an entire industry of self-tanners and tanning salons for that perfect bronze shade, smearing ourselves with moisturizing creams containing gold particles. But within clinic walls, we are just primed with a thick layer of toxic antiseptic, like a rusty backyard fence before a fresh coat of paint. And the funniest part is that this sticky war paint will not wash off with soap or a loofah for at least a week after you are discharged. You will walk around staining white bedsheets looking like a failed experiment from a chocolate factory. The perfect cosplay of an overcooked carrot, all for your own suffering. Fact 27. Bloody culinary math on kitchen scales. Remember your culinary masterpieces in calorie counting? Advanced medical mathematics sometimes looks incredibly primitive. To accurately understand how much blood you have lost during the intervention and whether they need to pump donor plasma into you, doctors need precise data. And how do they get it? The anesthesiologist literally picks up the bloody gauze pads thrown on the floor by the surgeon and weighs them on an ordinary desktop scale. Subtracting the dry weight of the fabric, people use electronic scales to weigh out a portion of broccoli or grams of protein for a slim figure. And in the operating room, your draining life force is measured on the exact same scales, piece by piece, rag by rag. The attitude toward your bodily fluids is as pragmatic as it is toward ingredients for a failed pie recipe. If too much leaks out, it means they need to add more flour, which means plasma. It is the most disgusting recipe in the history of haute cuisine. Fact 28. Solitary confinement for your neurons. Total social distancing starts right inside your head. Deep anesthesia does not just work like a sleeping pill. It physically destroys the architecture of your consciousness on a micro level. The drugs chemically block your synapses, the bridges over which neurons pass information to each other. Your brilliant, complex brain shatters in an instant into billions of lonely, completely isolated cells that scream into the void and cannot hear their neighbors. We shiver at the thought of loneliness, sit on social media for the illusion of connection, and go to therapists. But we voluntarily allow chemicals to lock every single cell of our mind into a deaf, solitary confinement cell with no windows or doors. This is the most massive network failure in your personal biological internet, shutting down the server completely. You are not sleeping. You are simply breaking apart into pixels that have forgotten how to form a picture. The Matrix reboots in an incredibly brutal way. Fact 29. A total transportation blockade. Blood is life, or so all the dramatic quotes say. But for an orthopedic surgeon, your blood is just an annoying red mud that gets in the way of seeing bones and nerves. If they are operating on your arm or leg, the doctor is not going to dig around in a puddle. A pneumatic tourniquet is applied high up on your limb and pumped full of hellish pressure. Blood circulation is stopped 100%. Your leg turns into a bloodless, pale, dead piece of meat for up to 2 long hours. We start panicking if our leg falls slightly asleep after sitting on an uncomfortable chair for 20 minutes, jumping around and rubbing our calves. But here, your limb is intentionally cut off from the life support system, risking blood clots and tissue death, just so the master has a bright and clean space to work with their tools. Your body temporarily experiences an artificial amputation. Enjoy your status as a clothing store display mannequin. Fact 30. Blind Tetris with slippery insides. Perfectionists better cover their ears tightly. We perceive our abdominal cavity as the crown of creation, where every millimeter of the intestine is laid out according to the golden ratio. That is the dumbest misconception. During massive surgeries, doctors often have to pull meters of your guts outside. And when it is time to stitch you up, nobody folds them back in with a ruler. The surgeon simply scoops up these slippery, pulsating loops with their hands and chaotically stuffs them back into your belly. We hire space organization consultants to beautifully arrange our socks in a dress bicolor, applying Japanese cleaning methods. Meanwhile, Medical luminaries just cram 30 feet of your most vital organ into the cavity, like dirty laundry into a suitcase 5 minutes before a flight. The calculation is based on the hope that the intestines will somehow wiggle around and settle into a comfortable position on their own through peristalsis. Marie Kondo would have suffered an irreversible nervous breakdown from such disrespect for things. Fact 31. A gravitational shift of your face. Gravity is an absolutely heartless bitch, especially when you are unconscious. If the specifics of the procedure require you to lie face down on a special support for long hours, get ready for a terrifying encounter with the mirror. Under the effect of simple Earth's gravity and a lack of muscle tone, all the free liquid in your body slowly but surely drains straight into your head. We blow budgets on jade rollers, hyaluronic acid patches, and lymphatic drainage massages to get rid of morning eyelid puffiness. And after this kind of anesthesia, you wake up with an incredibly swollen, bloated face that looks like a rubber mask pumped full of water. Your eyes puff up, your lips turn inside out, and you look like you were beaten all night by a swarm of mutant bees. Even the most advanced facial recognition system on your smartphone will refuse to recognize its owner in this monster. Beauty truly demands monstrous sacrifices. Fact 32. A maddening dance of paralyzed muscles. The loss of control over your own meat suit starts even before your consciousness shuts down. When they inject succinylcholine, a powerful muscle relaxant, into your veins, it does not just turn your muscles off. Before total paralysis sets in, your receptors go crazy, causing massive chaotic twitches all over your body. Your biceps, calves, and facial muscles begin to horrifyingly and uncontrollably pulsate and writhe beneath the skin as if a swarm of alien worms is swarming inside. This phenomenon is called fasciculations. We go to yoga, practice mindfulness, and try to control every breath and finger movement for the sake of bodily harmony. But chemistry could not care less about your spiritual practices. It turns you into a twitching marionette in the hands of a drunk puppeteer, forcing your body to perform a final convulsive dance before plunging into the void. It is a stunning puppet show where your own belly acts as the main prop. Fact 33. Waking up with a plastic harpoon. The final court of this mockery will stay with you in the form of the most vivid microtrauma. Waking up from anesthesia is never instantaneous. At some point, your brain suddenly switches your consciousness back on a couple of seconds before the doctor manages to pull the breathing tube out of your throat. You open your eyes and crystal clearly realize that you are choking because a giant plastic hose is sticking out of your airway, preventing you from taking a breath. Panic hits your nerves like an electric shock. People hate waking up to the harsh sound of an electronic work alarm, buying lamps that mimic a soft sunrise just for a peaceful morning. But here, your morning begins with a sensation of suffocation and a brutal jolt, as the doctor uses a sharp, almost aggressive motion to yank this plumbing hardware out of your flesh. It is the most brutal morning routine modern civilization has to offer. Good morning and welcome back to reality. Well, patients, are your illusions completely shattered? Your body is not a sacred temple. It is just a complex, occasionally leaking biomechanical mechanism that doctors fix using garage tools, pouring superglue on it, and pumping it full of industrial gases. You honestly believe that behind the closed doors of the operating room, some sterile, elegant magic was happening. But in fact, you just learned that modern medicine balances somewhere between a carpentry workshop, a cruel chemical experiment, and cooking for psychopaths. But you know what the funniest part is? You are still going to go there, voluntarily sign the consent forms, and go under the knife because the alternative to this controlled nightmare is slowly rotting away in your cozy bed at home. If your brain is still capable of digesting information after such a dose of truth, hit that subscribe button immediately and share this text with your naive friends. Write in the comments which of these facts made your insides clench the hardest, and be sure to suggest your own fact number 34 for the next dose of pain. The show is just beginning, and tickets are strictly non-refundable.